My parents invited me to dinner for a big surprise, then told me I wasn't their biological daughter. The text came on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, buzzing my phone while I was finishing a case file at the Portland Community Center. Gala dinner at the Rosewood, 7 p.m. Huge news. Mom's message glowed in the family group chat, where I was usually an afterthought. No details, just that word. Huge, dangling like a lure. My thumb hovered over the screen. I wanted to ask what was up, but a flicker of hope stopped me. Maybe this time they'd include me. Really include me. I typed, "I'll be there," and hit send, ignoring the ache in my chest. Family's family, right? I pulled into the Rosewoods lot that evening, the city's lights smudged by drizzle. My social worker's blazer was creased from a long day. Helping a teen mom find housing doesn't leave time for outfit changes. I smoothed my hair in the rearview mirror, whispering, "Just smile, Nora." I'd been telling myself that for years, hoping one day it'd stick. The restaurant's chandelier glow spilled into the foyer, guiding me to the gala room. Laughter hit me first, warm and careless. Then I saw them. Mom, Ellen in a silk dress, swirling champagne like a movie star. Dad, Martin, adjusting his tie, nodding at my sister Lila's story. Lila, radiant as ever, her auburn curls catching the light, paint-flecked nails gesturing like she was performing. Even Grandma Ruth was there, perched quietly at the table's edge, her silver braid glinting. They were all in their element, except me. My eyes snagged on a shimmering banner across the wall. "Congratulations to our true daughter." The words punched the air out of me. I froze, my purse strap digging into my shoulder. True daughter? Lila's laugh rang louder, and no one turned as I stepped closer. No one had saved me a seat. "Oh, Nora, you're here," Mom said, spotting me at last. Her smile was polite, like I'd crashed a stranger's party. "We're in the thick of it already." Lila glanced at my blazer, smirking. "Rough day at work?" I nodded, throat tight. "Yeah, ran late." A waiter nudged a chair to the table's corner. I sat, feeling like a prop in their scene. Mom raised her glass, her voice bright. "To Lila, our true daughter, something worth celebrating." Glasses clinked, Dad's eyes misty, Grandma Ruth silent. I gripped my water, the words sinking in. True daughter. Lila grinned, leaning in. "Okay, I'll spill. I did a DNA test for kicks and, surprise, I'm 100% yours, Mom and Dad. No surrogacy mix-up, just me, the real deal." Cheers erupted. Dad clapped Lila's shoulder. I forced my voice out. "So, what does that mean for me?" The table stilled, but only for a second. Mom shrugged, casual as if I'd asked about dessert. "Oh, Nora, it was a messy process back then. We used 2 embryos, didn't ask much. You're probably from someone else." Lila chuckled. "Yeah, no biggie, right?" No biggie. My hands went cold. They laughed, sipped, moved on like I hadn't just been erased. I stared at the banner, its glitter mocking me. I wasn't part of their huge news. I was the footnote, the one who didn't belong. The gala room at the Rosewood buzzed with clinking glasses and Lila's laughter, but I felt like I was underwater, their voices muffled. The banner, "Congratulations to our true daughter," loomed over me, its glitter catching the chandelier light like a cruel spotlight. Mom was gushing about Lila's latest art show, Dad nodding like she'd painted the Sistine Chapel. I sat in my corner chair, my untouched salad wilting, wondering how I'd ever thought tonight would be different. I'd spent 29 years chasing their approval, and here I was, invisible again. Lila leaned across the table, her auburn curls bouncing. "The DNA test was just for fun," she said, swirling her wine. "But when it came back, bam, I'm their biological kid, no surrogacy nonsense. Crazy, right?" Everyone laughed. Even Grandma Ruth gave a faint smile, though her eyes lingered on me. I wanted to ask more. Whose kid am I then? But my throat felt sealed shut. Mom caught my stare and waved a hand. "Nora, don't make it weird. You're still part of the family." Still part. Like a guest who'd overstayed. I thought of all the times I'd swallowed their slights. Lila getting the big bedroom while I shared with storage boxes. Mom framing Lila's sketches, but forgetting my social work awards. Dad driving Lila to gallery openings while I took the bus to night classes. I'd told myself it was fine. Love doesn't need fanfare. I'd been the one to organize Thanksgivings, to call on birthdays, to show up with coffee when Dad's knee surgery kept him down. I thought that's what family did. Now, I wasn't so sure. A waiter approached, his steps quiet against the hum of chatter. He stopped at my side, not Lila's, not Mom's, and held out a small velvet box. "The owner asked me to give this to you, Ms. Ellis," he said softly. Heads turned, Lila's brow arching. I took the box, my pulse spiking. My name, Nora Ellis, was etched on a card tucked beneath a ribbon. No one else got a gift. No one else was watching me like I'd stolen the spotlight. "Thanks," I mumbled, my fingers brushing the soft velvet. The waiter nodded and slipped away. I glanced at Grandma Ruth, her gaze steady, almost expectant. Mom frowned. "What's that about?" I shrugged, tucking the box into my blazer pocket. No idea. But I felt it there, heavy, like it held more than just metal or stone. Lila launched into a story about her next exhibit, and the table's attention swung back to her. I sat, the box burning a hole in my pocket, my mind racing. Who'd sent it? Why me? I replayed the years of being the other daughter, the one who fixed things, who stayed quiet, who never got the window seat on family trips because Lila needed it. I'd thought it was just how families worked, that my role was to support, not shine. But that banner, those words, true daughter, had cracked something open. I wasn't sure I could keep playing along. I stood, my chair scraping softly. "I need some air," I said, my voice barely audible. No one stopped me. Lila's laugh followed me out, sharp as ever. Outside, the Portland rain had slowed to a mist, streetlights blurring in the haze. I pulled the box from my pocket and opened it. Inside was a silver locket, simple but old, its surface etched with a tiny rose. I clicked it open, and a folded note slipped out, the paper thin and creased. My hands shook as I unfolded it. The handwriting was elegant, familiar somehow. "Nora, if you're reading this, it's time you knew the truth. Your mother, your real mother, was my daughter, Lila. She loved you more than life. Come to me tonight. I've kept her things for you. Grandma Ruth." I stared at the note, the world tilting. Real mother. Not Ellen, not the woman toasting Lila inside. Someone else. Someone named Lila, like my sister, but mine in a way Lila never could be. I looked back at the Rosewood's glowing windows, their laughter spilling out. I didn't belong there, but somewhere, someone had wanted me. I slipped the locket around my neck and headed for my car, Grandma Ruth's address already in my mind. I wasn't sure what I'd find, but I knew I couldn't stay here. The drive to Grandma Ruth's cabin felt like it stretched forever, though it was only 30 minutes from Portland's city lights. Rain-slicked roads wound through pine forests, my headlights catching glimpses of mossy rocks and shadowed trees. The locket hung heavy around my neck, its rose etching pressing into my skin. Grandma Ruth's note was folded in my pocket, its words, "Your real mother," looping in my mind. I'd spent years feeling like a spare part in my family, but now someone was offering me a truth I'd never been allowed to touch. My hands gripped the wheel, torn between fear and need. The cabin appeared around a bend, its cedar walls glowing under a single porch light. Grandma Ruth stood at the door, her silver braid catching the moonlight, her face softer than I'd ever seen at family dinners. She didn't speak, just opened her arms. I stepped into them, her wool sweater smelling of lavender and thyme. "I'm sorry it took so long," she whispered, her voice cracking. I nodded, too choked up to answer, and followed her inside. The living room was small, cluttered with books and faded quilts. A wood stove crackled, warming the air. On a side table sat a carved wooden box, its lid open, spilling letters and photos. Grandma Ruth gestured to it. "This is yours, Nora. Hers." She handed me a black and white photo of a woman in her 20s, dark eyes bright, a notebook tucked under her arm. "That's Lila, your mother, my daughter." I traced the photo, my breath catching. She looked like me, the curve of her jaw, the way her smile tilted. "What happened to her?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Grandma Ruth sat beside me, her hands clasped tight. "Lila was a poet, full of fire. She wrote about everything, love, loss, the way rain sounds on a roof. She wanted you so badly, Nora. When she got pregnant, she'd read her poems to you, said you'd be her muse." Her eyes glistened. But she died in a car crash when you were 6 months old. A drunk driver, gone in an instant. Grief hit me, sharp and unfamiliar for a woman I'd never known. I clutched the photo tighter. Why didn't they tell me? Grandma Ruth's face hardened. Ellen and Martin took you in after. Ellen said it was to honor Lila, but it wasn't love. It was control. Lila's light made Ellen feel small. Always had. Adopting you was their way of rewriting the story, erasing her. They didn't want a daughter. They wanted a clean slate. She reached into the box, pulling out a silver necklace with a tiny pen charm. Lila wore this every day. It's yours now. I took the necklace, my fingers trembling. The metal was cool, but it felt alive, like it carried her heartbeat. Grandma Ruth handed me a letter next, Lila's handwriting looping across the page. My Nora, you're my poem that'll never end. Don't let anyone tell you you're less than everything. Tears blurred the ink. She'd loved me fiercely without conditions, nothing like the family I'd grown up with, who toasted Lila's DNA test while I sat forgotten. I looked at Grandma Ruth, my voice shaking. All those years, I thought I was doing something wrong, not being enough for them. You were never the problem, she said firmly. They couldn't handle your light because it reminded them of hers, but you've got her strength, Nora. Always have. I slipped the necklace on, the pen charm settling against my chest. Outside, the rain had stopped, the forest quiet. I thought of Ellen, Martin, and Lila back at the Rosewood, laughing under that banner. They'd built a world where I didn't fit, but here, in this cabin, I'd found one where I did. For the first time, I felt whole, not because I was chosen, but because I was known. The morning after Grandma Ruth's revelations, I woke in her cabin's guest room, sunlight filtering through lace curtains. The necklace with the pen charm rested against my collarbone. A quiet reminder of Lila, my real mother, who'd loved me before I could even smile. Her photo sat on the nightstand, her dark eyes steady, like she was urging me forward. But forward meant leaving behind the only family I'd known, and that truth sat heavy in my chest. I wasn't sure I was ready to let go, not completely. Back in Portland, life didn't pause for heartbreak. My phone buzzed with work emails, case files, youth program schedules, but also a text from Mom. Brunch at the Ivy Sunday, 11 a.m., let's catch up. No apology, no mention of the gala or the banner that had gutted me. I stared at the words. Lila's letter echoing in my mind. Don't let anyone tell you you're less. I'd spent years chasing their approval, shrinking to fit their world. I deserved better. Sunday came and I walked into the Ivy, the brunch spot humming with clinking forks and floral centerpieces. Mom, Dad, and Lila were already there. Lila in a bohemian scarf, sketching on a napkin. Mom scrolling her phone. Dad reading the menu like it was a contract. They looked up as I approached, their smiles polite, not warm. Nora, glad you could make it, Mom said, gesturing to a chair. No one mentioned the gala. No one asked how I was. I sat, the necklace hidden under my sweater. I need to talk about last week, I said, my voice steady despite the knot in my stomach. The banner, the DNA test. You made it clear I don't belong. Why didn't you tell me about my mother? Mom sighed, setting her phone down. Nora, you're blowing this out of proportion. We took you in, raised you. What's a little mix-up matter now? Dad nodded. You're our daughter, legally. Let's not dig up the past. Lila rolled her eyes, her pencil pausing. Honestly, Nora, it's not a big deal. I'm their bio kid. Cool, whatever. You're still here, right? Her tone was light, like she was tossing me a crumb. I saw it then. Their world had no room for my pain, no space for Lila, my Lila whose poems had held me together last night. I'm done pretending this is okay, I said, standing. You erased my mother to make your story easier. I'm not your prop. Mom's mouth opened, but I didn't wait for her words. I walked out, the brunch chatter fading behind me. My heart ached. Not for them, but for the girl I'd been, always hoping they'd change. That week, I moved my essentials to Grandma Ruth's cabin, her spare room becoming my temporary home. She didn't push, just left tea on the counter and told me stories of Lila's poetry readings, her laugh. I dove into work, mentoring teens at the community center. One girl, Maya, reminded me of myself. Quiet, trying to prove her worth. You don't have to earn love, I told her, realizing I was speaking to myself too. I decided to claim Lila's name, not just in my heart, but legally. The name change process was simple. A few forms, a court date, but I wanted it to mean something. On a crisp morning, I stood in Grandma Ruth's garden, her roses blooming despite the fall chill. She handed me a candle, Lila's favorite scent, jasmine. "For your new start," she said. I lit it, whispering, "Nora Lila Bennett." Bennett, Lila's last name, now mine. The flame flickered, and I felt her with me, not as a ghost, but as a promise. Work became my anchor. I poured myself into helping kids like Maya, teaching them to trust their voices. I'd lost a family, but I was building something else, connections that didn't demand I shrink. Sometimes I'd catch Mom's texts, "Call me," Nora, or Lila's Instagram posts, her art thriving. I didn't reply. Letting them go hurt, but staying would have hurt more. Lila's necklace stayed with me, a reminder I was wanted, once, fiercely. That was enough to keep going. 6 months after leaving the Ivy's brunch table, I stood in Grandma Ruth's cabin, my new home's walls now dotted with my own touches. Books, a thrift store lamp, and a framed poem by Lila, my mother. Her words, scribbled in a journal Grandma Ruth had saved, hung above my desk. "Grow where you're planted, but choose your soil." I'd read it so often I knew it by heart, each line a reminder I was hers. Nora Lila Bennett, not the shadow I'd been for Ellen, Martin, and Lila. Portland's spring brought soft rains and new rhythms. I'd settled into Grandma Ruth's spare room permanently, her stories of Lila's poetry weaving through our evenings like a warm thread. She'd show me old photos, Lila at a cafe mic, her dark hair catching candlelight, and I'd trace the smile I saw in my own mirror. The necklace with the pen charm stayed close, but it was Lila's words that grounded me, proof I'd been loved before I could doubt myself. Work at the community center became my lifeline. Mentoring teens like Maya, who'd faced their own rejections, gave me purpose. I'd watch them light up when they shared their stories, and I'd think, this is what family does. Lifts you up. I stopped checking Mom's texts, which had dwindled to nothing. Lila's Instagram posts, gallery openings, glowing reviews popped up sometimes, but I'd scroll past. They were her world, not mine anymore. I was asked to speak at a youth workshop, a small event in a community hall with mismatched chairs and a creaky stage. I'd planned notes, but facing 50 kids and parents, their eyes curious and worn, I folded the paper. "I grew up thinking family was who you're stuck with," I said. I was wrong. Family's who sees you, who stays when it's hard. I found mine after losing the one I knew, and you can too. A boy in the back nodded, scribbling in a notebook. Later, he slipped me a note. "Thanks for saying I'm enough." I kept it, a tiny echo of Lila's letter to me. Grandma Ruth suggested a ritual to mark my new name, something Lila would have loved. On a Sunday, we stood in her garden, the roses budding again. She handed me a sapling, a dogwood, Lila's favorite. "Plant it for her," she said. I dug into the earth, the soil cool under my nails, and set the tree's roots down. "For you, Lila Bennett," I whispered, "and for me." Grandma Ruth lit a jasmine candle, its scent curling into the air. As the sapling stood, fragile but steady, I felt it. Peace, like a door finally closing, and another swinging wide. That night, alone in my room, I read Lila's poem again. I wasn't running from pain anymore. I was building something new. Grandma Ruth was my family, her quiet love a foundation. The kids I mentored, the stories we shared, they were family too, bound by truth, not obligation. I thought of Ellen, Martin, Lila, their table full of laughter I'd never fit. I didn't need it. I had Lila's words, Grandma Ruth's arms, my own name. I stepped outside, the stars sharp above the cabin. "I'm here, Mom," I said softly, the dogwood's leaves rustling in reply. I was Nora Lila Bennett, wanted, whole, enough. That was my beginning, and it was mine to write.